Well, hello again, and welcome to Music is Medicine Monday. My name is Amy Thiessen, and today is the 50th week of Music is Medicine. I want to pause before I jump into anything else, just to stop and reflect, and to say thank you. I started Music is Medicine Mondays just over a year ago, and my hope was to share some of the work that I do with voice and expression and communication, to explore the nuances of it in a way where it was accessible, where it was free, and hopefully where it would help cultivate a sense of community and interconnection, especially in a rather challenging year. Over the last year, I have had so many messages, so many emails, DMs, shares, comments, and knowing that people are listening and that are paying attention, and that maybe it's shining a little light or a little understanding in your world has been one of the sweetest gifts of this work. Coming here every week, it's a discipline, and it allows me to dive deeper into the nuances and the complexities of expression and communication, really look at it from a holistic standpoint of everything from like the nervous system, which has been a big part of my work, and the physiology, to the emotional components, to the cognitive components, to even language and articulation. And knowing that you've been there and you've been listening and paying attention and appreciating this work is a really sweet honor. So thank you so much. I will continue to be here, though I'm sure this is going to evolve. I really will continue to be here in a way where I can offer this support and offer support to the community in a way that's free and accessible. So thank you, thank you. Your paying attention inspires me to keep going, and it is a great privilege. I also want to briefly mention Embodied Voice starts next Monday, which is crazy. There's only, I think, 1 or 2 spots left. So if you're curious about that 6-week program around body and voice and soul and kind of how do we bring them together, please check out the link below. There's tons of information. I spent a lot of last week talking about it, so I want to just jump in today's theme and get going on that today. Okay, so today, the theme I want to talk about is this kind of myth of letting go and what the art of letting go really looks like, and how we can really use it in a positive way in our life. Letting go is, it can be really complex, right? It can be hard. We've all heard somebody say, oh, just let that go. And you're like, awesome, thanks. I would do that if I could just do that. There are reasons why we can't let go easily. There's physiological reasons, there's mental reasons, there's reasons why it happens. So I want to talk a little bit about that. But before I do, I want to share some, kind of angsty songs, because I find that really letting go has its biggest challenges when we talk about relationships. And I think a little bit of Fleetwood Mac is just an excellent support to this conversation. So this is Dreams by Fleetwood Mac. I'm sure you know it. Where you go again, you say you want your freedom. Well, who am I to bring you down? It's only right that you should play the way you feel it. Listen carefully to the sound of loneliness, like a heartbeat drives a nail in the stillness of remembering what you had and what you lost, and what you had and what you lost. Oh, your crystal visions. I keep my visions to myself. It's only me that wants to wrap around your dreams. Have you any dreams you'd like to share? Dreams of loneliness like a heartbeat drives you mad. In the stillness of remembering what you had, what you lost, what you had, what you lost. Oh, thunder only happens when it's raining. Players only love you when they're playing. Women, they will come and they will go. When the rain washes you clean, you know. Oh, thunder only happens when it's raining. Players only love you when they're playing. And women, they will come and they will go. When the rain washes you clean, when the rain washes you clean, when the rain washes you clean, you'll know. You will know. You will know. Awesome. Oh, nothing like Fleetwood Mac to get you going. I chose that song for a very specific reason in talking about letting go. So, what I'd like to do is actually talk to you a little bit about this week's theme. And then I'm going to close it out with a mantra, which is a Shiva mantra, which I hope will help support. We're going to do it as a sing-along. Will help support you in not letting go in kind of, I got to release that, but in allowing the process and the intelligence and this kind of really brilliant inner system and really brilliant mind to find understanding. Yeah? Okay. So, the myth of letting go. Often when I work with clients, something that comes up is, especially because I work with a lot of people that are in more the spiritual realm, the yogic realm, is this idea that our ego, our anxiety, our depression, undesirable states, that these are bad and that we need to remove them and we need to get rid of them. And that's how we attain enlightenment, that's how we attain equanimity. And I find that this idea of letting go, and I see it as a myth of letting go, that there is this way that we can make a choice to just release some undesirable aspect of our experience. And if we do it right, that it will no longer affect us. I find that that is a myth, and not only a myth, but something that comes up and can be very detrimental to our health, to our learning, to our growing, and to our understanding. So, for example, I had a client recently, and honestly, this is me. This is me 10 years ago. And they came in and they were dealing with anxiety. And then they went into kind of the yogic philosophy and perceived this anxiety as being kind of a failure to let go. And because they couldn't let it go, because they still had anxiety, because they were still worried, that they were actually failing. And that, of course, creates anxiety, which perpetuates this idea that I'm not being able to let go because I'm getting anxious, and I shouldn't be anxious. I should be able to let that go, and then I feel more anxious. And it's something I see again and again. It's something I have experienced. This idea that letting go is removing an undesirable state in a way that it no longer affects us. And that is a understandable idea of letting go, but an inaccurate one, okay? So we latch on to this idea of letting go like that, I believe, because it kind of allows us to sidestep, right? The discomfort. Life can be uncomfortable. We all know life can be uncomfortable. We have to deal with things we don't like. We have to go through processes we don't like. We have to grieve. We have pain. There's hardship. There's tough shit in life. And so when we think of letting go as this thing that I can just, I just let that go and I can move away from it, of course it's appealing. It's this quick fix notion that I can just make that disappear. What I find, though, is that this idea that we can just let go like that ends up creating more problems. So for somebody with anxiety, for example, let's talk about me. You know, when I had anxiety about maybe certain things, maybe I had a bad breakup or something in my 20s, and everyone would say, you know, just let it go, or I'd be like, oh, that's just my ego, I just need to push it away, or I just need to go away from it. I might get a temporary resolve, but then the anxiety would come back, the spinning would come back, and I didn't know what to do about it because I couldn't let it go. If I could, I would. Yeah? So when we look at letting go as this, I can just do this and change my state, we can increase our anxiety. I've also seen it as a almost a dissociative mechanism, right? Where we remove ourselves more and more from like the feeling of life, the discomfort, everything's equanimous, but then actually become so far removed from our experience of life that we lose this richness, we lose the texture, we lose the beauty and the intricacies of it. The other challenge I find in letting go is it also can become almost a judgment, right? Somebody will look at somebody and we're like, oh, just let it go. It's not a big deal, right? And we've all been in that situation where someone just tells us to let it go and we want to, but we can't. And then there might be a social conditioning or a construct that makes us feel like we should just let it go, even if we're not ready. And so we end up repressing or pushing things aside that might be offering us some information. So I don't know if this sounds familiar to you, but it's definitely something I went through. The example I often use is, you know, I was dating a guy on and off, and I've talked about this before, that I was really attached to. And you know, part of me will probably always be attached to. But what happened was my friend would be like, oh, just let him go. Let it go. It's not a big deal. Just let it go. And so I kept pretending to let it go. And yet I kept really spinning on it for years. Still feeling the attachment, still feeling clingy, still feeling sad, still having dreams and fantasies and all of these things happening. And everything logical said let it go. You know, barely saw the person. It had been a long time. Nothing really good had come out of it for me. Like all the logical reasons were there to let it go. But I couldn't. So I stopped trying, thank God. I sat up one night and I said, okay, well, how do I actually feel? And I realized that there was still so much pain and so much grief. And I decided that I wasn't going to let it go, that I was going to let it stay for as long as it needed to, that I was going to allow myself the time to grieve it, to feel it, to move through it. And what happened after several months was that attachment and that gripping started to fade. The nuance of letting go is that sometimes our desire to let go is itself an attachment or an aversion. These concepts of letting go, these concepts of attachment, they're really layered. And sometimes our approach to something actually is the exact thing we're trying to avoid. So we might use letting go as a way of trying to bypass what our experience is. This isn't to say you can't ever just let things go. You know, some stranger might make a comment and it bugs you and they're like, just let it go, and you just let it go. Like, it might not be a big deal. And if you can do that, great. But when they keep coming up, when you still have, the anxiety, when the stuff keeps coming back, often that means there's something that still wants to be addressed, right? There's often an emotion that maybe we don't let ourselves feel or acknowledge. There might be a insecurity that we're having that we need to address for ourselves. There might be, and often, a really strong attachment to kind of an external idea of how we should be instead of addressing how we are. And so what I find is that letting go is really about letting in our experience, and holding it so that it can move through us. And our ideas of what it should look like, our agendas, our expectations, these are normal. I'm not going to say get rid of those because, again, you might not be able to. But just allowing them to be there, allowing ourselves to notice them, to be present to them, and to slowly kind of move into the layers that maybe haven't been met or touched on. So that when we actually do let go, it's not a doing. It's more like our system goes, oh, okay, I don't need that. One of the most brilliant pieces of advice I think I've ever gotten in my years in this work was from a man named Don, who said, let go of what is ready to let go and allow that which is not ready to let go to stay. And that's really what letting go is. It's an allowance of what is and a support in ourself in maybe moving towards a direction. So I want to go into a mantra now, which is Jaya Shiva, Shankara, Bom Bom Hara Hara. Jaya Shiva, Shankara, Bom Bom Hara Hara. And then the second part, Hara Hara, Hara Hara, Bom Bom Hara Hara. And Shiva is considered the destroyer, and destroying illusion, destroying doubt. And from a very mental place, from a very I'm attached to an idea place, we might use Shiva thinking, he's going to get rid of this feeling and that's going to happen like this. If I sing this, then I'm going to get rid of this. That's not quite the approach we want to take. We want to take it in as a letting in is letting go. So when we sing to Shiva, it's like offering everything. The confusion, the pain, the hurt, not as a you need to fix this, but as a here. I am willing to see. I am willing to allow guidance. I'm willing to be in this for as long as it takes. And I offer this to you in transmuting this kind of darkness, this shadow, this confusion into a greater sense of clarity. Secondary to this, as we're doing all of this, is that when we sing, we actually help regulate the nervous system. Okay, so often when we're in that, just let it go, right? We're anxious, we're tense. By regulating the nervous system, we actually bring the prefrontal cortex back online, and so we become more clear in our thinking, right? It's less of a make something happen and more of a we just have different knowings and different understandings. So I'm going to sing today's Jaya Shiva kind of as a sing-along. You can definitely sing along it. I'm going to give spaces, and I'll kind of do this, where you would just repeat it back. So I invite you, please, if you're at home and you want to sing. And if you don't, if you just want to listen, that's cool. That's cool too. So you'll know when it's your turn to sing, because I'll do this, at least for the first few, and then you'll kind of get it. Jaya Shiva Shankara Bom Bom Hara Hara. Jaya Shiva Shankara Bom Bom Hara Hara. Jaya Shiva Shankara Boom Boom Hara Hara. Jaya Shiva Shankara Boom Boom Hara Hara. Hara 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 Boom Boom Hara Hara. Hara 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 Boom Boom Hara Hara. Jaya Shiva Shankara Boom Boom Hara Hara. Jaya Shiva Shankara Boom Boom Hara Hara. Hara 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 Boom Boom Hara Hara. Hara 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 Boom Boom Hara Hara. Jaya Shiva Shankara Boom Boom Hara Hara. Jaya Shiva Shankara Boom Boom Hara Hara. Hara 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 Boom Boom Hara Hara. Hara 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 Boom Boom Hara Hara. Bring it down. Jaya Shiva Shankara Boom Boom Hara Hara. Jaya Shiva Shankara Boom Boom Hara Hara. Hara Boom Boom Hara Boom Boom. Jaya Shiva Shankara Boom Boom Hara Hara. Jaya Shiva Shankara Boom Boom Hara. Thank you. Thank you again for being here for these 50 weeks. Thank you for your voices, your encouragement, your thoughts, your words, your shares. Please comment, please share if you enjoyed, and please reach out because it is always such a privilege hearing from you. For those of you joining me next week on the Embodied Voice program, I am so excited to start that with you. For those of you who are curious or want more information, please message me, and don't worry, this program will launch again in the fall. Thank you guys so much, and I will see you here again next week.